Why these workshops or seminars important? I think they provide you a kind of extra classroom activity. As you know, social media is playing a very important role, and it has impacted higher education in a very decisive way. Lectures are no more popular. Let's be honest about it. Most of us are teachers or students. Our students can pick up all the information, whether they are in Bath or in Lahore, or they are in Patiala or Amritsar, or they are in Mauritius. They can pick up everything online. So we have to rethink how we deliver the lectures. Are we too much focused on lectures? I think we need to strengthen the traditions of workshops and seminars, and that is where your future historians, political scientists, experts on all kind of disciplines will come about. So, and the other reason that we need to have more workshops and conferences, I know it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, even getting so many people here, I know lots of effort has gone into it. But I think socialization is very important, because what we see in the universities in North Atlantic region, lots of students feel very much on their own, and there are lots of psychological issues. And I have seen reports on Pakistani students as well. So I think workshops, activities outside the classroom provide what we call socialization. Other than the academic part of it, I think students meet one another, they meet scholars, and there is this kind of relationship. So this is where I think we have to think about it. Now, very quickly, I have taught abroad, for 33 years, and I've taught in Africa, at Kenya, which is very much sadly in the news nowadays, in Pakistan, and I taught in Mauritius, and also in Maldives, and then I taught in many European universities at Erasmus. What I see is that our disciplines, not just history, political science, English, philosophy, psychology, creative writing, they are facing a serious crisis. We had a problem, we had a challenge, we had a crisis in 1990s. Postmodernism created a big challenge for disciplines like history. We survived. But now the challenges are of three kinds for humanities. First, recruitment is a big issue. Not many students in European and American universities or Australian universities are opting for these disciplines. So demographic reasons or all kind of sociological and intellectual reasons. And I think we need to look back at our own disciplines and redefine them. Second reason, jobs. There are not many jobs available. I mean, I have my former PhD students who are teaching in 3 or 4 universities. This came from America, what we call adjunct professorship. Now, it's a very impressive term to be an adjunct professor, but what it is, you are paid on hourly basis. And you can't make your both ends meet unless you teach in 3 or 4 universities or colleges. And I've seen that happening in Britain now. It happens in America, but all this tradition of adjunct professorship is affecting European university. Germany and Scandinavia are still on the safe side, but I see that happening in Pakistan as well, because the students are paying huge fee, they have to have living, allowance, they have to have a motorbike, and they're teaching in 2 or 3 classes. And most of these students are most of these teachers are PhD students. So we have to think about job situation, and we have to create lobbies through our writings, through our publications, through our all kind of output to make these policymakers realize what kind of issues and challenges higher education is facing in all the South Asian countries. The third thing is that research grants have dried up. For example, in case of Britain, that is where Sarah and myself, we have been working. Brexit has hurt us a lot. So the universities would get lots of money from European Union or from other research, granting foundations. So that money is not coming. So when the money is not coming, we're not able to help our postgraduate students who are not able to get sabbatical leave. And this is something which I think in a developing country like Pakistan or next door India, Afghanistan, that Zafrullah Sahab was talking about, all the 8 or 9 countries of South Asia, we have to think about job market. It's still, I think our peers, our policy makers, and even our parents say that humanities, the areas of humanities are a luxury. They are not a necessity. But as you see, most of our issues that we face in our individual life, in our collective lives, they are linked with humanities. So saying that we produce more doctors, we produce more engineers, we produced more, professionals in other disciplines is no guarantee, because I think humanities in our part of the world, recruitment is not the issue, but there are other issues, the job-related issues. And I think the societies like Pakistan should properly evaluate and appreciate the fact that these are the issues, and their understanding and finding solutions for them is only through developing and enriching humanities. I understand in terms of historiography very quickly that generally, I mean, you could say 120 things about the British Empire or any other empire, and I have no nostalgia for the empire, despite the fact my neighbor, the late Neeraj Chaudhary, was one of very few South Asianists who thought Britain had done an excellent work in India. Otherwise, Indians had no civic sense at all. So Indians and Pakistanis hated Professor Neeraj Chaudhary, but who stood his ground until his death at the age of 102. But I do feel that South Asia, for example, now historians are realizing that the empire, and especially the subcontinent, influenced countries like Britain, not just by giving a prime minister or a few mayors, but in the way Britain was defined. I mean, if you happen to read one of the known historians, Linda Colley, who is British but is teaching at Columbia University, she thinks the way Britain was defined, how these 4 different regions came together and forged this identity called the British, is a lot to do with the empire. So there is this kind of attitude in historiography. But in the subcontinent, very quickly, our history mostly moved either around the colonial narratives or the colonial selections of historical works which were done under Delhi Sultans or under the Mughals. And colonial historiography, all the way from William Jones until 1940s, suggested that this Muslim period was an aberration in the Indian subcontinent, and Britain has come back to restore India's classical heritage, pre-Muslim period. So some of those people who were the scholars of Sanskrit, Max Muller and several others who later on taught in Oxford, they felt that real India was brought back by the British. And this is how the developed interest in archaeology, interest in classical studies, and revival of Sanskrit language took place. So our historiography, South Asian historiography, mostly was influenced by the colonial narratives and colonial use of those histories which were written in Farsi during the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal. Then came nationalist historiography in response to imperial historiography. And then came the Marxist and leftist historiography. And then came the national historiography. So the 4 big narratives which were challenged by postmodernists were the traditional schools of historiography, and this was something similar happening to other areas of humanity. But the happy thing is that since the 1960s, 70s, we have started giving some attention to issues like ethnicities, issues like class, issues like caste, issues like discrimination of one kind or the other, or regional studies, or regional history. and even the history of parliamentarian politics or federalist politics. And now people are looking at micro history, and people are looking at local governments and how local governments are more important, maybe in some cases, than the provincial government or even the federal government. So the historians whose names I see on the campus here, Abdul Hamid, Professor Sheikh Abdul Rashid, and Professor Yar Muhammad Khan, I was a student when they were teaching. They were mostly imbued with nationalist history, how to respond to the colonial narratives, how to justify the creation of a state like Pakistan or India, or for that matter today in Bangladesh.